Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and spending your time with us today. My name is Marla Ranieri, and I am the head of clinical innovation and strategy at Prompt Health. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about how AI powers profitability beyond documentation and to have a great group of panelists with us to speak to all of you today and answer all of your questions. And we do have the chat feature on the side. I will be asking you guys questions to put in the chat to get your feedback, to get your responses. I want all of you to be engaged. In addition to a Q&A button at the bottom, which if you have specific questions, we would really love for you to use that Q&A button because we are going to make sure we address those questions. And if we don't today, then we will make sure to follow up and address those questions after the call. From that, I really want to make sure when we talk about AI and hear from you guys what you're thinking about AI, it ends to be a lot of times people just think documentation, GPT. And yes, that's a huge win. Really excited that we finally have bridged that gap and got documentation and AI within documentation into the rehab industry. And that's really becoming baseline expectations. You're going to see more and more clinicians when they interview at your clinic, when they come out of school, they're going to be asking, do you have that AI documentation? And can I use that? It's going to be an expectation. But if we just think of that AI documentation, we're missing the bigger picture. We're missing beyond what else we can have and invest in and what else could really be profitable for our clinics. So the good news, and I'd love for you guys to put 1 or 2 in the chat right now, is if you are using AI documentation, put 1. If you are not using AI documentation, put 2. Love to hear from you guys to see who's already utilizing AI in that way. And as I said, the good news is that most of you guys, if you're on this call, probably are and even are using Prediction Health. So kudos to all of you. You've seen firsthand what AI scribes can do, and you've taken the leap to introduce it to your teams. But as we said, you really probably grown to love and trust this AI scribe, but it's the tip of the iceberg. And in fact, you probably are a lot comfortable now with all of the other pieces that you're overlooking, all of the other inefficiencies that may be slowing down your staff. So if you just stop at that documentation, you're only solving one piece of that puzzle while your front desk, billing team, admin, operations staffs are still drowning in manual processes and potentially leaving money on the table. So the bigger opportunity that we're here to talk to with you today is how AI can transform the rest of your practice and seamlessly integrate with your workflows, automating scheduling and wait lists, reducing denials, tightening billing, improving reporting, and elevating the entire patient experience. And I want you all to think back to when you first implemented AI tools like scribing, or even when you first started using ChatGPT. Maybe you were skeptical, maybe it felt uncomfortable, maybe you didn't even believe it could work in healthcare, but once you tried it, you saw the time it saved, and you probably can't imagine going back to the way it was before that. So now let's imagine applying the same shift across every other area where your clinic feels pain and saying you don't know what you don't know. So until you've experienced AI in those workflows, you might not be able to see how much margin, time, and peace of mind you've been leaving on the table by settling for some outdated systems and just accepting the way it is. So that's what we're going to dig in today. And like I said, we've brought an amazing group of leaders on this call, sharing their knowledge, sharing their experiences with you so you can learn from them, and we'll hear directly from them today. So I want to kick it off with a poll on who's joining us. You're going to see real quick, it's going to pop up. Want to know, are you guys clinicians, admins, billers, other owners? Would love to hear students, who's on the call today, and see and make sure we can tailor this talk specifically for you. So I will give you a second or 2 to answer that question. Great. All right. And then now let's introduce our panelists. I'm going to go through each one of them and let them actually introduce themselves to you. They're going to share their role, their company, and why they're here today. Pedro, would love to start with you as well first.
Hi all, I'm Pedro Teixeira. co-founder and CEO of Prediction Health, but now very excited and honored to be VP of AI engineering at Prompt. Obviously, a clinical background and general nerd background as well. But I think there's a lot of really exciting and diverse things for us to talk about. Of course, we've spent a lot of time on documentation in the past, but I think there's so many exciting things for us to share. And I'm honored to be here also with some wonderful folks applying AI and a lot of different tools across their practices and organizations to achieve really great things.
Thank you. And it is such a pleasure to have you here at Prompt working with us and bringing all your skill sets in the AI world to Prompt. Thanks. And let's go next to Whitney Terry. We'd love to hear a little bit about you.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on today. So I run operations for East Tennessee Spine and Sports. I've been running operations for us, which includes both the operational, administrative, financial gamut since 2016. At the time, we were 2 outpatient facilities, and since that time, we've grown to 9. So we are all in the Knoxville area, East Tennessee region. And I will be honest, a lot of our growth over the last 2 to 3 years has been directly correlated to our integration of AI, and more specifically, our latest clinic opening with us transitioning to Prompt in this year. So excited to share with you guys today more about what we're doing operationally, in addition to what our clinical team is already really enjoying as far as the scribe tools Marla alluded to. So thanks for having me.
And it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much, Whitney, for being on today.
Yeah.
And next we have Zach. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Zach Smith. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, also the co-founder and co-CEO of HIDEF Physical Therapy. So we're a smaller outpatient and sports clinic based out of the Seattle metro area. And as co-CEO, we've split our roles. And my role is mostly in like operations and finance side of the company. I'm also the AI pioneer of our company. So I'm the one that's mainly bringing in all the AI technologies into the company to help us become more efficient and scale. And so hopefully we'll be able to share some stuff with you guys today that'll help you guys to implement some of these tools that we've used to really increase our efficiency on a company-wide level, which has helped us scale over the past 6 years.
Yes, and one early adopter. Love hearing you're going to be able to tell us all about those challenges and where you're at today. So thank you so much for joining us.
You got it.
We really have a powerhouse group with us, and setting the stage, this is perfect for Pedro to just tell us a little bit more about, starting at the very top, why is documentation only one piece of the puzzle and an important piece, and what other areas do you feel that are ripe for AI transformation in clinics?
Yeah. Part of the reason I got so excited about AI all those years ago was because it seemed like it was such a powerful tool, right? It's not any one feature. It's artificial intelligence. And the more intelligence you have, it should be more great things that you could accomplish with it. There's clinicians. And of course, I was a clinician, so I understood the pain points of writing all your notes at 1 a.m. and how that's not fun. We say that everybody deserves a sidekick, right? Because everybody can get benefits for all those different things. So in that case, clinical documentation, you're repeatedly having to do something where you're interpreting these inputs, that they can be written in all these crazy different ways, right? But that's a problem that billers have to do. They have all these different payers and all these different requirements, and the information comes in all these ways, and these obscure codes that get perhaps used sometimes when denials come in. They deserve a sidekick. They should have some tools to help them deal with that, understand where the source of something is, but then maybe to automate a lot of the drudgery of having to deal with that on the billing side. There's on the scheduling side, right? So it's so important to get people scheduled on, because if they don't show up, right, you can't treat them, you can't take care of them. So the schedule is a huge point of leverage, and a human isn't maybe always available for every single little thing, and they can't call every single patient and double check things. But automations, these AI tools can give you this way to interface and automate and have a lot more presence there to make sure that you're utilizing your available schedule really well. For patients, we're not quite there yet, but in the future, you could imagine that the AI is another very natural way to interact, because you can just talk to it, you can text to it, you can write things, and it's able to interpret that and understand what you're trying to get at, and then help you in a way that there might not always be a person at your clinic ready and willing to hop on the call or answer messages in the same way that AI in the future may be able to do. And all of this automation AI tool, either you can do new things that previously you just didn't have the bandwidth to be able to accomplish, right? Or you can really reduce your costs, because having a human dedicated to a task is an expensive thing, but being able to augment that person with these AI tools and automations makes a really big difference. A way to help both on the revenue side, but also the cost side for an organization. And at the end of the day, we want to be really useful to folks. And the AI is a great way, a great technology that you can apply sometimes to accomplish a lot of those really important goals.
Absolutely. And scaling with that staff you already have, like you said, it's really that addition, taking away those areas to make yourselves just be quicker, faster, and more efficient. And moving over, Whitney, if you can tell us a little bit more, let's get really practical. How have you used AI in your clinics? And of course, letting us know a little bit how your staff feels about it too.
Yeah, I would say so. Like I mentioned earlier, we transitioned to Prompt in April, or I guess it was March of this year. We were previously unhappy with our EMR system from a standpoint of felt like cancellation rates, no-show rates were higher. The concept of our model is providing that patient experience, speaking to quality of care. But as our clinics aren't just a one clinician, you drive up, it's a box shop that you drive up to. We have pretty robust clinical schedules. We have 9 to 12 clinicians in each of our locations. So already just by me rattling that off, you can imagine the administrative problems that you have with same-day cancellations, no-shows. We were using PredictionHealth, which was great, but then we were able to transition to Prompt, utilize PredictionHealth, and then combine that with Prompt Plus, our online scheduling rate. I know I spoke to this a little bit, but utilizing the waitlist opportunities, we've seen a 5 to 7% increase actually at each location where we're utilizing that tool, which for us has been huge. It's hugely beneficial. Our staff, our overhead costs have been reduced. We haven't had to expand our administrative team maybe in 1,800 visit clinics like we would have before. We're utilizing 2 administrators at that location, and they're able to actually just point, click, and invite patients to come back in for therapy without having to scroll through 30 patients trying to see who's the best fit for that. So I would say for us specifically, that's been huge. And then again, from a billing perspective, same thing, just the flow, the capability of actually, it's almost like an ongoing dialogue of AI with our clinical team, as well as from the front to the clinical team to then our billing team, which we utilize Timber for that as well. But really our denial rate is, I think, 1% at this point. We feel like we're getting the most opportunity to provide for our staff and for our patients just through utilizing the processes specifically that Prompt Plus is added to us alongside of our utilization of PredictionHealth.
Wow, kudos to that 1% denial rate. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And such great examples of how you're using it and helping aid your clinicians and your rest of your staff. So thank you. What about you as well, Zach? Can you tell us a little bit more? I know you've been robustly using it in your clinic. Where are you using it beyond documentation in your operations clinic too?
When I think about AI in general, I think about optimizing processes that used to be manual, or when someone has to do something that takes an inordinate amount of time and hours. And then when Whitney talks about like scaling up staff, really what you're talking about is you just don't have enough time in the day because these tasks take such a long time. So for example, like calling insurance companies to verify benefits, like that, I think in the near future is going to be a thing of the past. And right now we use a combination of Prompt's auto benefits verification combined with an AI service that calls insurances to verify benefits. And like things like that help us to take tasks that would have taken a long time to do and now automates it. And so that's one of the big things that, you know, I'll double on to what Whitney said with wait lists and things like that. When we run a clinic like we run, where we run one-on-one care and we're trying to maintain high quality care, if you have open appointments, you're letting a lot of revenue slip. And that's why a lot of companies have gone to the 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 method, because they're like, hey, I'm going to just stack up the schedule and we're going to get a lot of people dropping off. But at least because we triple stacked our schedule, we're going to have people on the schedule. And our clinicians aren't just going to be sitting around getting paid, which is a massive loss. And it's like the airline industry, right? It's like once that appointment is gone, once that seat on the airline is gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. That's lost revenue. It's not like you have that appointment sitting on the shelf where you can now deliver that in the future to someone. So it's really important to stay on top of that and be able to maintain. And so in our previous system, we used to have, it was almost like one front desk's entire role was to take all of the wait list and like manually write it into a block at the bottom of the schedule. We would just have this long note. You had to click into it and look, and it was very tedious. And then you had to take that and go over to our text system and then text that person. And then if you sent out 5 texts, like all those people would get back to you. And some people they would say, you'd get 5 people that say, I wanted that appointment. And then you'd have to tell all those other people manually, no, I'm sorry, someone else already took it. And so even that simple process has reduced one front desk per clinic that we're in. And to us, like in the Seattle area, a minimum wage employee here is $20.76 an hour. So that is a massive cost savings for us. And when we talk about not just cost savings, but also the time cost that would be to hire that employee, to maintain that employee's employment, to do all the training and things like that, to audit that person. And with AI, we just see such a high accuracy where the tasks are automated and we know it's getting done. And like some of the features I love, for example, are like looking out at certain appointment times, knowing where the person's supposed to be scheduled. Hey, this person can come in on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays after 4 p.m. And it just automates that entire process out. And so now I used to, as an owner, used to jump into schedules on the weekend and be like, man, I got to text some patients to fill all these cancellations that are coming in. And now it's automated. It's a one button press. And PT used to be it still is, and it always will be a heavily payroll intensive business to be in. But with these kind of tools and what we've tried to implement is how do we take AI and technology and at least make our business less payroll intensive and be able to empower people to do more throughout their work day. And like I said, we're doing everything from Prediction does this, which is awesome. This like direct to dictation box, which I don't know if any of you guys have done this, but it's Control-Shift-Y. It's an awesome feature because you can dictate in, but I do that everywhere in my entire personal life, right? So I have Whisper on my computer and I'll go in and I write emails and I don't ever text somebody without voice to text anymore. And I think like this, PTs largely are not used to this dictation. And it's because things like I used to dictate via Apple and it was like, I would say patient reports and it always thought I was saying picture of a horse. And so then I'd have to spend all this time going back and editing all this stuff. But now you've got things like the dictation feature on PredictionHealth, which is like remarkably accurate, knows all the medical terminologies, it's HIPAA compliant and all this stuff. And so there's really no excuse why not to do this. And physicians, Pedro, as a physician, they've been using technologies like this for a long time. And I remember going and shadowing a surgeon recently, and he was impressive as a surgeon, but I actually told him, I was like, man, you're actually more impressive in your dictation skills because you speak at a 10x clip. I've never heard a human speak this fast. And he's using just like a straight voice to dictation. Now that system's pretty smart to edit some of the stuff. I think some of the stuff that PredictionHealth is doing is taking this to a whole new level where you could walk around with a mic if you wanted to. You could be eating a sandwich and you could be dictating an entire note and then it would just go into your note. And so like the operational efficiency of this has become so high. And then the other thing that has helped is we know a lot of clinic owners that have documentation time blocks on their schedule. And so opportunity cost loss is so huge, right? If you're in a market like us and you're averaging well over $100 a visit, and then you're blocking out 2 or 3 of those a week, that quickly adds up to tens of thousands of dollars per clinician. And now you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, depending on the scale that you're at. And all of those things lead back to what most PT's goal is, which is to provide high level care and to be able to maintain that. And so I think for us, at least in a market where we see more people shifting to multiple patients per hour, these are the technologies that have allowed us to maintain our one-to-one care. And also, by the way, have profit margins that are in the top 5% of PT clinics, 25+% profit margins on our business, it's been awesome and our clinicians are happy. And so it's just like this snowball effect by using this technology. It's really impacted so many different facets of our business that I get excited about this every day and going into these kind of webinars and doing my own research and finding tools to make us more efficient and teaching our clinicians. And that's a huge part of our business now.
Well, and the passion shows through. You're not staying stagnant. You're continually looking and getting excited when the team is doing better because of what you're searching and seeking and bringing in. So I love that. And Whitney, Zach touched on it about how the RCM and the AI in billing and RCM has been so impactful. Would love to know from you, and you did say you've got 1% claims rate. Can you tell us a little bit about what is the AI in RCM billing that you're utilizing through your new system now that you've switched to get to that 1% rate?
Yeah, so I would say that it's twofold for us. We're utilizing, obviously, there's a CPT coding factor that occurs throughout the process. So if you're talking from a clinician standpoint, when they're going through and they're documenting their note, they're supported not only by Prompt in CPT code selection, they can be supported by PredictionHealth to make sure that they're optimizing whatever codes they're selecting through that process. And we spend a lot of time with our therapists just in regards to that specifically. And so then that way, by the time it gets to our billing team, if there's no red flags, nothing, we have a setting actually through Prompt that allows that to go on straight through. And then those corrective measures, if it's flagged, actually AI is the one in those crosshairs essentially that's pulling those things back quickly for review and then allowing us to send those things out a lot of times within the same day. My team is pretty in tune with those notes and when we're tackling those. So that to me has been the most impressive, is not only seeing that, but then the turnaround time on what we're getting as far as feedback on, okay, we're missing a modifier here, or perhaps these codes are not going to give us the optimal message when we're sending this to the insurance company. Let's take a look at this again and then resend this. So that to me has been great for us. And I will say that just talking from the one thing I think probably Zach and I danced around a little bit is the patient experience, right? Patients love this. Like the waitlist feature, a patient loves it. Do you know how many times a day I get phone calls that I don't answer because I don't recognize the number? And if somebody texts me from that same number, I'm responding. The waitlist feature just enhances that so much from a scheduling perspective. So where maybe my fear, and even in allowing AI's interaction in insurance as well as scheduling, is, oh, my people are no longer using critical thinking skills. It's optimizing it. So it's really been the opposite of what I'm not a Zach. I'm not an early adopter. I'm not excitable about AI. I want my people to think. I'm classically old school, a little old lady in that regard, but it has really just enhanced the features around us so that patients aren't getting these denials from insurance companies, aren't calling us with these issues of they don't understand why their care wasn't covered and why we didn't apply this code, or same thing with the scheduling aspect. So really just overall, I would say that the patient experience is enhanced so much. And that kind of speaks to both levels as far as maybe the RCM as well as a scheduling aspect of what we've been able to accomplish.
Yeah. Thank you. That's fantastic. And you did talk about that CPT insights and all of that and everything combined. So Pedro, would love to know from your perspective as well, how important is it that all these different AI features that we're talking about actually integrate with your EMR? And what are you doing on your end to make sure that the AI and the integration of the EMR is just really enhance and bring back the revenue, as Whitney has been talking about and Zach has been talking about?
So one of the really key lessons for us was that having something that feels cohesive, that feels seamless, just delivers a lot of user happiness. You can have a great tool, but if it's not where you need it, when you need it, you miss out. So we did our best to make sure that the Sidekick experience and documentation was very cohesive, very integrated. It wasn't like a separate thing that's somewhere else. And then when we joined forces with Prompt, part of a really large part of why we were excited to join you all, right, was because there's all of this other stuff that could be cohesive, right? Because what you do in the documentation and in the visit and which codes you pick and the quality of that documentation, that affects whether or not there's a denial, right? That affects whether or not you're going to end up getting paid for that visit. If the person doesn't get scheduled, right, then that's going to affect, that's a lost opportunity to deliver care. And so across the entire experience, across every person that uses the EMR, not just the clinician, right, there was this opportunity to take things that you could do in one area with a tool like Sidekick, right, to merge in value from all these other areas. And we had a lot of folks very frequently tell us, like, hey, could we help with denials? If we had the data and we understand what's missing, right, Sidekick can make sure to help capture that. Or the CPT Insights feature, very similarly, like you could find out later that this code isn't covered or something, but what if you just bake that in on the front end when you're actually picking? So make it really easy to do the right thing. So that sort of cross-pollination, this like seamless integration from not just like the documentation, right, is a small piece of it. It's also like all of the things that influence that, right, from getting the patient in the door to keeping them engaged to then the billing, which is just very critical. And you have to be able to get paid so you can continue to deliver really great care. And so much of the information there now is something that can get leveraged and pulled in to Sidekick or just handled more automatically there, and taking care of these things that it's impossible to remember all the details for all the payers, for all the compliance and billing and denial risks that you might run into. And there's also so much work that is not the thing that people love to do. To Zach's point earlier, right, about like text messaging patients. You don't do it because that's the thing you love to spend your time on. You do it because it makes a difference for your organization. And finding tasks like that you can just automate and give to the AI and the models to do for you makes a really big difference, because then you're freed up to go do so many other high value things.
And looking at that combination and how you said it's so integral and being together and actually embedded in your EMR, would love to hear, Zach, if you tell us what that actually means financially for you. Can you tell us what this AI has brought back in revenue, or any statistics that you can show us from your clinic about success? Oops, you're muted.
I knew I was going to do that one time today. So when I think about AI and how we use it for our growth and how it's impacted us, I think about one. So this year, for the first time, and I don't say this to brag, but we landed on the Inc. 5000 list at 858. So we had 493% growth over the last 3 years. And really largely, a lot of that has become these tools. And so for us on the billing side, for example, we use outsourced billing. We haven't insourced it yet. And this year, that was on the table for us to insource billing, which obviously that comes with a lot of increased payroll costs. It comes with a lot of increased logistics. My operations director now has to start to manage that process. But with the switch, so we used to pay 6% on the previous EMR that we were at. We were able to, even just from switching to Prompt, we cut that in half. And then this year, because of all the new tools and how easy it is, we've actually negotiated a fee with our billing company that is so equivalent to what it would be in-housing it, that we've saved so much money that it actually paid for an entire Prompt subscription. Like, people come to me, like, because I do business coaching, and people come to me and, oh, this EMR is so expensive. What's the differentiator? And I'm like, you literally cannot afford not to be on something like this if you're a small business, because it just makes you so much more efficient. That even if you look at the cost savings on billing, so we've saved over 6 figures in billing costs per year just using Prompt. And by the way, if we in-house this, we can even make it cheaper, because now instead of having to have a biller per 2 or 3 million or 4 million in billable charges, you can have one per 6 or 7 or 8. Like, I've seen people pushing the limits where they've got one biller and they're doing 10 million in billed charges. And it's amazing because of all of the automated processes, the billers could focus on the high leverage activities. And then a lot of these AI systems are going after the low hanging fruit, the stuff that's easy to go get. And also, just from a standpoint of reducing denial rate, like Whitney talked about, you think about, like, AI gets wrapped into a lot of different things. But when I think about AI in this sector, I think about like machine learning. And so when I think about this, is your EMR is going to become smarter and smarter at this over time, at figuring out, hey, this insurance in this region accepts this charge in this format, needs this modifier on it. And it'll prompt your PTs to bill in a certain way that makes it more effective, so you get less denials. Because right now it's an arduous process, or it's way less now with Prompt. But it used to be like, every time a PT was onboarded, I have to teach them all the intricacies of which insurances they could bill these codes to, which ones you can't. They had to have a paper. If they didn't reference the paper, they billed the wrong charge. We had to send it back. And it was like even simple stuff like billing Medicare the wrong eSTIM code. Like, instead of the G code, you're billing the wrong one. And so all of these things start to self-fix, and it's got this trickle-down effect where now I have to spend less time trying to train and oversee and make sure that all my clinicians are doing the right thing, and we're not getting these denials on the same thing over and over again. And those are the kind of things that I think kill your business, and it kills your ability to scale, because a lot of people dread scale because they look at their business and they go, oh my God, I have 20 clinicians right now. How am I going to scale this to 50 or let alone 100 when I can hardly even, I feel like the wheels are falling off and I'm duct taping things together to make things work. And so all of these integrations where things talk to each other, like even just as simple as the front end billing or the back end system talks to the front end system, right? Like just the integration to know, hey, this is what was charged, this is what the balance is. And then these systems are starting to predict, hey, this insurance is it's going to reimburse this much based on the average codes that this clinician charges. And you can even start to customize what you quote a patient based on the location they're in, what their insurance is, and all that kind of stuff. And so not only does it make our systems more accurate for predictive revenue flow, but we also really improve the patient experience in that the patient really understands like what they're going to be billed, what the cost of healthcare is, because healthcare for a long time, and now with some of the acts that are in place where, no surprise billing act and things like that, which doesn't protect people as well as it should. It's one of those things where you buy and then you figure out the price later, which is crazy to me that's ever existed. And a lot of these systems now, and Prompt has these great setups for even being able to predict co-insurance percentage and charge that person on the front end. It's like all of these systems have just made us so much more efficient. And that's what's led back to that ability to grow 493% over the last 3 years. And it hasn't felt like this thing. Because right now, I'll tell you, I'm doing less in the business than I ever had to, because I'm not like I used to just go to sleep at night and be like, I wonder what I'm missing. And I wonder what's just falling through the cracks. And I wonder what's going to come back and bite me in the future. And now I feel like because all of these systems are so reliable, and they're more reliable than humans, and it doesn't replace humans because there's a lot of human need here. But the great thing is I could sleep so much better at night and have so much more peace of mind with a larger company because of like technology. Even the Sidekick stuff, if you talk about reducing denial rates, the biggest fear for a lot of clinicians or clinic owners and managers and people in compliance is coming back and getting audited. And I can sleep easy at night knowing that I've got real-time data to see, are my clinicians writing notes that are going to pass if we get audited? Are they billing like appropriately and all of that kind of stuff? So it's taken off a lot of the compliance risk, where even before when you audited a chart, you had to pull 100 charts. It took so much time. And then you might have still missed the 10 notes that were going to be a problem for you later down the road. And so now we've got like 100% barrier against that. And so it's led to a lot of peace of mind and success for us.
So you're saying that the right EMR with AI embedded in it is not a cost, it's an opportunity and investment. And congratulations on that. Gosh, that extensive growth in Inc. 500. That's very impressive and exciting to be a part of.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And Whitney, what about you in terms of growth? How has AI helped with recruiting new teammates or growing your team? And how does that look like when you're talking to clinicians, admins, billers, all of the above who are interested in being part of your company?
It's an incredibly easy sell. I think that a lot of, especially in a market where it is very competitive and very saturated, especially in our region, people are looking for different benefits these days. So they want a higher paycheck. They're not really interested in health insurance, but they want a work-life balance, right? And so what better to provide them with a work-life balance than actually providing them with a tool that they can utilize on site, so that they're actually able to check out when they clock out. They want to go home and be able to focus on home. And that's exactly what we're able to provide for them. Honestly, we host a lot of students as well. And it's such an interesting experience how many students do well because they come from a system in another rotation where they've already utilized Prompt or already had this experience. So when and even in the hiring market, people who we're just seeing so many more students who even had opportunities for on clinicals. That saves us training time as well. Not only is it helping us in this recruitment process because it's a system that people are already familiar with, but it's also helping us from a standpoint of, hey, I don't need to tell you that you need to go watch these 4 hours of training videos. So it's been a nice give and take for us, being able to market ourselves differently, because I think it is one of the things now that sets us apart. We are independently owned. We've stayed that way. And so making sure that we're continuing to differentiate ourselves as the market continues to change is is such a huge deal for us. And I would say administratively, same, but recognizing that people can have this ability to prioritize things that don't require them staying on the phone constantly with an insurance company trying to get those benefits. That's outsourced. You're looking at patients who are able to, like our staff is so excited if they do online scheduling, right? So if they see these appointments roll in, it's contagious. Your staff really feels that. They're excited about it. I had even written a statistic for us. It's led to about a 5% increase, our online scheduling automation, just utilizing that component. So for one of our clinics specifically, just as a general example for folks, that's 90 visits a month. So that's a pretty good chunk. So these are majority of folks that we're going after as far as cancellations or same days, anything within that 24-hour period. That's really where your biggest loss occurs. For us financially is trying to recoup those. So seeing that 5%, that extra 90 visits, that's led, we average in our insurance cases about $88 a visit. That's an extra about $8,000 a month. And that's one location. So I can take that and extrapolate it out to 9. That's a huge differentiator in a month of productivity. And I didn't hire anyone to do that, right? I brought somebody in and gave them this tool to do that. So it has really changed kind of the way that we're able to target and go after people, because this is an age of technology and people are excited to use these tools in a way that's productive and not damaging. And I think that's the difference, is that we feel like Prompt and Prediction Health have given us tools to really make our staff effective in what they're already doing without eliminating what they're doing, because they're still required, right? And so it just is enhancing a patient relationship, enhancing an experience, because I don't have to be on hold with that insurance company. I don't have to pick up the phone when a patient just wants to be texted to schedule. So there's just so many added benefits of that for us that really, I can be a poster child for you guys for just the online scheduling, not to mention what it's done for us from Sidekick and Scribe component and really that balance. It's been a really easy sell as far as bringing kind of clinicians on staff, and they're completely bought in when they utilize the tools.
That's Pedro, that's got to feel so good to hear.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah.
Love to just hear
well done.
Yeah. And
no, it makes it all worth it for sure.
Yeah, cool.
And that is the goal, that we can hire more, keep clinicians in the field, make them happy, do what they want, and also obviously all those other admin pillars, because that turnover rate is high when they're not happy doing mundane tasks. Really great. I love hearing that. Zach, you have a little different perspective as well. As you said, it's helped you grow without gaining outside capital. Would love to hear a little bit about that and where you see that these AI tools and the different operational areas that you said you're able to step a little bit back from and dive into that piece.
Yeah, for sure. The first thing I'll say though, too, is like just about the Sidekick and them talking about clinicians loving it. At first, everyone was like a little bit like, oh man, I don't know if I want to be recorded, all my conversations. And now I feel like if I took away the Prediction Health, like we would have a riot or some sort of protest at our company. And it's gotten to the point where like the first tool, we just onboarded someone yesterday, a new PT. This kind of stuff helps us hire really quickly because we're onboarding 4 PTs this month in a 2-week period. And the onboarding's super easy because you said, even if they don't have experience with Prompt, like some of our clinicians don't have experience with Prompt. By the way, the training videos are great. They're not 4 hours. They're super fast and they're animated and they're entertaining. It's not like some silly, boring thing that you have to go through, but it's like the first tool that people like our directors are like, did you get them prediction access? And like our clinician who just started, she's got 20 evals on her schedule this week. And she's not like clinicians. We used to get clinicians all the time that are like, I don't want that last minute eval because it's going to kill me paperwork wise. And now you've got clinicians who are willing to take on those last minute evaluations and talk about like efficiency. There is not only are you able to book last minute follow-ups really easily, but you're able to get evals on the schedule. That's huge to be able to get people in. One, from like a business standpoint of filling the schedule with evaluations, is everybody loves that. Everybody wants more evaluations. That's what drives the business. But from a patient care standpoint, those PTs are willing to move those patients up from next week or 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out because, yeah, no big deal. I can do this really easily. And so that's been one of the major things that's helped us. And then like way less turnover because people don't have to do all this, like these mundane tasks and like all of the arduous processes we try to take away from all job roles. We talk about clinicians mainly, but maybe I'll sound like Jerry Durham out here, like front desk, like our front desk enjoys their life so much more now because like instead of doing all these manual tasks and spending so much time on the wait list and the cancellation list and the lost patient report and all that kind of stuff, and even like plan of care can be automated out. Our front desk staff are able to focus on the important things, which is like customer interactions, the people that are in front of them. They're not having to handle all of those phone calls for bookings because people are booking online. We used to just get a lot of people that couldn't even view their own appointments. And so they'd have to call us just to be like, hey, what's my appointment? And now that's going to interrupt the customer service process at the front desk. We've seen great NPS scores actually increase from our previous platform. And I don't want to tie it directly to Prompt in our processes, but I think just as a whole, we are able to deliver such a higher level customer experience that now, like company-wide, our clinician NPS score is a 97 across the board. And it's just because like our clinicians can spend so much more time doing the things that they want to be doing and should be doing versus like documenting. And I'm going to go into some of the like reducing duplicate of work and all that manual entry stuff. But I think about an interaction I just had with my own physician where I went in, he was asking me questions. He would ask me a question, I would answer. He would turn to his computer and he would type for seriously, it felt like 60 seconds. And it was like the most awkward conversation that I've had for a very long time. And I thought to myself in that moment, I was like, man, I go in and watch our PTs at work all the time now, and I don't see any of these awkward conversations that you're used to in medical. And so it really helps you flip from what is like the traditional medical experience of someone having these fragmented conversations where it almost seems like the person's not listening and they're just looking at their computer. You haven't even made eye contact for the last 30 minutes. And so it just like all of those things lead to a better NPS score, which at the end of the day reduces your churn of patients, which is huge, right? Like people walking out the door, again, Jerry Durham, arrive, pay, and stay. If you're not coming and you have the automated arrival, you have the automated payments collection stuff, you have the automated stay with having high NPS and driving lower churn. So now you're reducing your cost of marketing because if it's costing you $250 to bring a customer in or a client in, and now you're churning out half as many, then your customer acquisition cost goes down, your lifetime customer value goes up, and your value equation is massive. And then you could just spend on the right areas to drive business growth. And that's really what we've looked for with trying to partner with technologies to be able to improve things like that. And then looking at even, like we said, like turnover at front desks kills people because you get a person that comes in at 4 months or 6 months or a year, and it's just like it feels like it takes 90 days to get someone up to speed because you have to teach them all these like intricacies of like your SOPs. And now the SOPs have become largely simplified. And we just onboarded 2 front desks this week to expand to our new clinics. And it's like they're already up and running after a week because it's just, hey, these are the systems, watch these training videos. They're super simple. And now a lot of this stuff is automated. And so basically your role is just be nice, welcome people in, make sure that people know how to use the kiosk, and like all of that kind of stuff has just led to our ability to just continue to grow without, like you said, adding overhead and just like making people so much more efficient.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's such a great way to go through the whole patient cycle and tell us where all those automation pieces, like you mentioned, and how it leads to better completion rate of therapy, of patients, less turnover from your front desk admin, and just overall happier outcomes because everybody is still there and helping get them to the final piece. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Pedro, if you want to give us a little bit more about what's coming in the next months. I know we have so much that we even are in little beta testing, but AI, where you see it going, what's coming that Whitney and Zach will be able to use even more in their clinics.
And AI should do really useful things for people, right? If you're going to go and do something, technology or not, it should do useful things. So there's a theme, I think, across this entire chat we've gotten to have here, which is physical therapy, rehab therapy has all these headwinds, all these like things making things harder, and folks are sharing tools that are making things easier, which has reminded me of a story that Steve Jobs would tell, which is once they looked at how much energy it takes different creatures, including people, to travel a certain distance, right? And the condor was by far the most efficient. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Like, we totally get left in the dust by this condor that just glides miles and miles. But then someone had the insight to like, what if we put a person on a bicycle? How far can they go if they have the bicycle? And then they set the new record, right? They leave the condor in the dust. The bicycle makes it so much easier for people to travel distances. And I'll touch on some future exciting things, but the principle that I like to share or emphasize is that the tools that you use can make your day-to-day a lot easier, right? So you could walk a mile or you could ride a bike for a mile. And not only could you maybe have the bike take you the mile, but maybe if it slowly got more and more downhill, could the bicycle get even better as you go? So as I'm going to touch on some things looking forward, I want to encourage folks to think about, am I on the bicycle? Is my bicycle getting faster? Are my tools, are my systems making it easier and easier for me? Or do I wake up each day and have more friction, more things that I have to deal with? And so as we've been thinking about what should we accomplish as this unified entity, right, for AI tools and for other features, we've been considering what are the bicycles that we can build for people and how do we make those bicycles faster and faster? So documentation, clinicians, you all are quite familiar with that, right? The Ask the AI, the CPT assistants, that's great. But now who do we give the bicycles to? The billers, the schedulers, et cetera. So you should see that the technology that you decide to use should be getting better and better. So for billing, we heard a lot of really great examples where things already get automated and clean claims just go out the first time so that you don't have to do a bunch more things. Can we make it then easier to take then the edge cases, the denials? Can we merge that into what the clinicians have in front of them to warn them ahead of time or capture the information in the right spot? There's so many of these little edge cases that happen where like a certain payer doesn't cover this code or not when you combine this and that. You can't remember all those things, right? It just should happen. It should remind you. It should make it easy, right? And feel like you're pedaling downhill on that piece. For scheduling, there's a lot of exciting things for us to do to make sure things get scheduled. Obviously, we have the automations now, a lot of great pieces brought out here that are really the key. Like, can we do something to make that even easier for patients to be able to go back and forth, to reschedule in more natural ways and things like that? For the compliance stuff, right? We've got all of our historical stuff. Could that compliance stuff happen? And that suggestion, that nudge when you're actually in the room with the person, get that integrated in, because having a more compliant note also then probably reduces the denials that you're going to have and the data that might be missing that's going to cause someone to have to do something else later. And so I list these things, and these are the trends, right? This is what you'll see. The system should be getting smarter and doing more for you, either because it becomes easier, it happens in an automated fashion, or it pre-fills the information for you. It calls the insurer and looks something up. It does the claim statusing for you. There's all these really exciting things for AI to do. And if you're on a bicycle and the hill is getting steeper and you feel like you're picking up speed with less and less effort, that's what the AI tools, that's what the AI systems that you use should do across your entire life and all the different things you use, but especially the EMR that you're using to help deliver care to patients that come to you looking for help. Hopefully that's a fun way to think about it, and I'm excited to share and build and launch more things to folks soon. But yeah.
Perfectly said, and so inspiring. And I hope everybody is on a downhill bike going as fast as they possibly can, because that's how we all work together to better this industry. And I do want to open up to questions because I want to hear from you guys to find out what else you want to hear about. First, you're just going to see a poll pop up if you want to learn more about Prediction Health, about Prompt, about both, about Whitney's clinic, East Spine Sport, or about HIDEF, Zach's. Please feel free to put that in. They are happy to share and talk with you and help. So feel free to mention what else you would like to learn more about. And then please put some questions in the Q&A. I would love to hear from you guys. What else do you want to ask Whitney and Zach? And what do you want to know about? What are your fears or your hesitations and questions for them, since you have them here for you today? And as we're waiting for some questions to come in, Zach and Whitney would love to just have some advice to additional clinic owners, admins, billers, of if they are hesitant to make a switch or to adopt tools, just to give some advice on what helped you get to that point and why would you feel you can help them for these tools as well.
Yeah, I'd say in a world of healthcare, we all know this. This is just reported all the time, right? Shrinking workforce, rising costs, lowering reimbursements, the switching costs, right? Like when people think about switching an EMR, switching a system, adopting a new system, it's really like that we talk about switching costs. Is the pain of staying, is that higher, is that lower than the pain of switching? And like I think the perceived pain of switching sometimes is higher than the actual pain of switching. And so I would say like really make sure that you are doing your diligence in looking at new tools that are coming onto the market in a variety of different areas, pilot things, make sure that you know what's coming because companies out there are going to adopt these tools and become more efficient. And they're going to be the ones that start to take market share because it's much easier to take that market share because of their tools. It's just like any technology, right? You don't want to get left behind in this kind of thing, especially when it impacts the clinician's life so much. And that's your lifeline to a successful business is having happy employees, and then the rest solves itself. And so really making sure that you are auditing your systems and figuring out like what I do every day is I come in and say, what are people doing all the time that I can automate, which I can create some sort of system that makes them to not have to do this. And then that they can focus on more high leverage or things that humans need to touch. And that's really what I think about every single day.
Thank you. And Whitney, any last minute pieces for the audience today as well?
Yeah, I think for us, we actually went through this process of feeling stagnant with our current system. We went through a very big kind of research project, 2 different occasions. And honestly, Prompt stood out above all the others just as far as the technology was concerned. And while I think we're a little bit in a little bit different scenario, we have 75 clinicians at this point. We have a lot of different age demographics in that as well, which can traditionally play a role. No offense to anyone who's above the age of 45 on here that's a clinician, but that's really been something that has prevented us from moving into a change because your staff they like what they like and they know what they know. But we literally, from the time that we did the onboarding until now, I have not received a single complaint from a therapist or front office member in regards to the functionality of the technology that they're utilizing. To me, that pays for itself because of how much that was a resounding issue with what we were dealing with before. So I would say do your research, and the research will stand for itself when that time comes to make that decision.
Great. And that's a great feedback coming from somebody who just made the switch. So appreciate that. And we do have a couple questions coming in. So one is, could you offer the number of patients per hour seen in your clinics? And as you use Prompt, if this metric has increased?
Yeah, I'll take that one because I think Zach said they're one-on-one for an hour. So we are in network with all insurance carriers in East Tennessee. We actually our scheduling's a little bit different. So we do an hour for every eval, and then our return patients are scheduled every 30 minutes, and there's overlap obviously with that. Our goal is for our clinical team to spend 45 minutes to an hour. So a lot of times we're in a situation where we're able to allow our therapists to really control their scheduling. So if they have higher functioning patients, they can utilize their time and skills to make sure that those are maybe backed up with manual patients and things like that. So yeah, for us, I wouldn't tell you that there's necessarily a direct correlation to the average number of visits per day per se, but I would tell you that it's significantly reduced our cancellation rate.
I think that's a better way to frame it. It's not that you're just adding more patients. You're actually seeing the number of patients that you can in that day.
Yeah. So we're hitting our metrics, which for our PTs is to stay between a 10 to 12 per day average. And then for our PTAs, because we do utilize team systems, they're at an average of 12 to 14 per day. We're hitting those metrics and we're seeing our cancellation rates reduce. So that was overall the goal.
Great.
I would say also, even if you're seeing a one-on-one caseload, you can still look at it as visits per hour because all the empty spots are not a visit. And so if I look at a 10-hour day and I have less patients on the schedule, I am seeing net less patients per hour. And so I'd say we've gone from like using all of these tools, right? All this automated stuff, all like maximizing all of the benefits of like Prompt Plus for us. If I look at the last 90 days, an 18% cancellation rate, but a 92% 2.5% efficiency means I'm refilling a lot of those appointments. And so I am getting less openings on my schedule, which are leading to a higher net profit on the clinician. And so our clinicians are averaging more PTs per week or more visits per week than they were on our previous EMR, even in a 1-to-1 model. And so that only scales, I'm sure, with 2-to-1, 3-to-1, those kind of practice models. It just creates more leverage.
Perfect. Thank you. And I know we actually are at time, and there's a few more questions that came in at the end. So we will make sure to reach back out and answer these questions for you. But we just really appreciate your time and being here today, and understanding that you can still be evaluating your practice, where you're leaking time, money, or energy. And there are ways and tools to be able to solve those areas and continue to make all of your staff happy. So on behalf of all of Prompt, Prediction Health, Zach and Whitney, thank you for being here. Keep this conversation going in your networks, and we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.